set the scene quite well, and it would be better to discuss things. What I want to pick up is the point he says about the fact that the threat of war exists. And I'm referring here to all sorts of US and other UK media who were saying, oh, this is a breathing space. Immediately after Friday's retaliation by Israel, people were saying, that's it, it's finished, everyone is standing where they were. In Haaretz today that Moshe has sent me, Amos Harel rightly points out that this conflict has had a history. It will continue. It will continue because both sides have been in this kind of, if you like, Cold War. It's now reached a different level, and this level will not disappear simply because right now there is a pressure by the Biden administration. So there are a lot of lies and facts about the current situation. I thought it's important to clarify some of them, partly because inevitably the Western media has gone overboard with claims that 99% of Iran's missiles failed. Clearly a lot failed. Some of them failed before leaving Iranian territory. But this doesn't mean that it's as the situation, if you like, was as terrible as reported by the Western press. 9 missiles go through, as I wrote last week. But more importantly, I think there is, as Moshe pointed out, this idea that Iran will never retaliate. We can kill as many physicists as we want. We can do what we want in Damascus. We can do what we want regarding individuals in Beirut, and nothing will happen. That has broken, and that's significant. It's not unimportant. The fact that a number of newspapers, Western papers, have indicated, including, I believe, the Financial Times, have indicated that had it not been for US-UK intervention, the Israeli air defenses were in danger, is apparently repeated by some people in Israel. And on its own, that's important. The numbers were dramatic in Iran's attack: 170 drones, 30 cruise missiles, 120 ballistic missiles. And my understanding is that Iran's claims that this was a low-key calibrated attack can't be believed either. The films they've shown of various places getting destroyed also can't be believed. However, it is true that the damage to some of the base in Nevatim, where the airstrike to Damascus had taken place, do exist. We have pictures of that. There are all sorts of other military scenarios being proposed that by various institutes, strategic studies, War Institute, and so on, that the drones were really to divert attention from the missiles. The main thing were the missiles. Iran says we haven't used our best equipment. That's probably true, but it doesn't end the fact that quite a lot of their planes and drones did collapse. There is also claimed both by Iran, but also repeated in Israel by a number of military personnel, that in some ways the idea was to find maps, take photographs, and some of these photographs were sent to Iran in the subsequent images that were emitted from the drones. I'm not sure, because as far as I know, a lot of them didn't reach Israeli airspace, but Israeli defense people are also repeating that, so maybe it's not as um, um, wild as some people are saying in terms of Iran's comments on this. The problem we have is that it's not just Israel that is a liar, so is Iran. And the films that they showed, for example, initially were definitely fake film. Having said that, the fake news spread by Iran has had a major effect in the region. The countries of the region, Jordan, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates condemned Iran's actions a day ago. But certainly the movement, what Iran did, was very popular in Jordanian social media and on the streets. In Gaza, people were pointing out to what was happening in the sky and rightly referring that for the first time there were missiles in the skies that weren't destined to destroy their homes, their houses, their schools and hospitals. And there is no doubt that in terms of the Arab street, Iran has gained considerable support with what it did. There are a number, as we look at the scenarios that Moshe was talking about, and I agree entirely with him that, if you like, this pause by Israel might be a very short-lived pause in terms of looking for new targets in Damascus, in Beirut, elsewhere. We know that yesterday there was a major attack by, again, we don't know whom, but the Americans are saying it wasn't us, on Hashd Shabi. Hashd Shabi is Iran's Shia militia supporters in Iraq, I believe one day. And we can already foresee that this will continue. So it's important in a way to look at the differences between the two countries. And again, Moshe rightly pointed out to some of those. I'm going through some of the others. Some of this data was gathered by the International Institute for Strategic Studies. And they say, and I will add that I don't trust everything they say, but they say, of course, they can't guarantee the accuracy of this information, except when it comes to probably the surface area of the two countries. So the comparisons are dramatic, but in some ways, if you look down and the way Israel will have the backing of the West, the way it has had it in Gaza, you see that these numbers don't have the significance that the Institute of Strategic Studies wants us to believe. So the population of Iran is 88.6 million. The population of Israel is 9.6 million. The surface area of Iran is 1,648,000 kilometer squares, a bit more. Israel is 22,000, as one Zionist supporter told Iranian exiled media last week. Actually, Iran is about 80 times larger than Israel. In terms of the GDP, Iran is supposed to be $413 billion per annum. $525 billion is Israel's. Interestingly, Iran claims, and I think here I would put a lot of doubt on this, claims that it spends 2% of its GDP on defense. Israel claims it spends 4% of its GDP on defense. In terms of superiority, the air superiority of Israel can be of no doubt. Some of the, I think they have 340 ready military aircraft. Some of these are F-15, some of them are F-35. My understanding is they're getting more F-35s, while Iran's 320 fighter planes includes F-4s, F-5s, and F-14s. And if you want to get a feeling of what F-5, F-4, F-14s are like, you should go back to the 1986 period. So it's quite old. And despite the number, these 320 fighter planes, no one really knows how many of these are actually available to fly. So we are even in doubt there. And of course, in terms of air defense, Israel keeps talking about its Iron Dome. And this is the missile defense system, one of the most important pillars of Israeli defense. They have been very proud to go around to various media outlets. I see people from the Strategy and Security Institute in Jerusalem, other people speaking to Western media and saying how reassured they feel. I wouldn't be so reassured, because had it not been for US, UK, the Iron Dome was doing well, but it wasn't perfect. In terms of distance, you have to think that the distance between the two countries is 2,100 kilometers. So no one can just, if you like, easily get there. The drones take longer, the ballistic missiles take longer. And the fact that Iran has spent huge sums of money to develop its missile.
Yassamine.
Can the admins please look after people who despair? Definitely Iran has made some advances here, but still it's a very long way. In terms of shipping, Iran is, the Iranian Navy has about 220 ships. Most of them are old, completely worn out. Israel has 60 ships, but everyone's estimation is that it's far more powerful. And then we have this whole fighting that has been going on between Iran and Israel, cyber attacks. So in cyber attacks, I would say Israel is ahead of Iran, but Iran isn't as badly out of it as some people claim. So according to Israel, and I would take this with a pinch of salt because we don't know how many of these were actually organized by Iran, but Israel claims that since October 7th, they have been victims, or it had 3,380 cyber attacks against Israel have been organized via Iran or its proxies. I would doubt that, but we know that cyber attacks have been part of this war. And in some ways, the cyber attacks, in one case, in December 2023, stopped the gas stations in Iran. The national fuel distribution was targeted, and it was a serious disruption. So obviously Israel can do that. My understanding is that Iran did manage to change train timetables in Israel and caused chaos with that, but maybe not as bad. The main issues that everyone is talking about is obviously the nuclear characteristics of both of these, and the claims and counterclaims. As Moshe rightly pointed out, Israel has a large number of atomic bombs, but doesn't say it has them, and he explained exactly why. It is amazing that throughout last week, if you listen to BBC or other Western media, everyone was telling us that we are it's a real threat. Iran has nuclear weapons or is close to having nuclear weapons. I'm doubtful about that, partly because the IAEA regularly visits, and IAEA says Iran is close to having nuclear weapons, but hasn't got nuclear weapons. And I think that's reliable information. What I was amazed at was the stupidity of reporters on Channel 4 in BBC, which is supposed to be the more intelligent of the stations, asking IAEA people if they had any information about Iran's nuclear sites, as if, like Israel, Iran's nuclear sites are hidden. They're not. They have to comply to NPT, and they're often visited, and these visits are very regular, and they need to show and prove things. It doesn't mean that Iran might not go there. It certainly, that is a threat, and that will make the situation far worse. But as I have tried to explain, and I think both Moshe and I have tried to explain, the situation is not that simple, because despite the 2,100 kilometers, the two countries are really quite close by. And if nuclear weapons are used against one, the other one will definitely have the side effects of what would happen. And it's more, one should see that at this stage, at least, more of a deterrent as opposed to a real war. So my own predictions, like Moshe, is that it's very likely that the attacks on civilian military targets in Iran will continue. The question will be how far Iran will retaliate and what will happen with that retaliation, and how long the US and UK and various other governments can manage to stop Israel from launching what it really wants and what is backed by neoconservatives in the United States, by John Bolton, by Trump, by various forces of that ilk. What would be the kind of retaliation by January 2025, if we have a Trump presidency? Clearly, a war against Iran will be possible, and no one, I think, would by that stage be able to stop it. Thank you very much.